Hello and welcome to another episode of New Apartment Radio Podcast. It is your host, Bill, with the producer, Jackson, to my right. Jackson, what's going on, man?
Not too much. Just got back from dentist, so my mouth is frozen. So if I slip up some words, and that's probably why.
That's going to make for an entertaining podcast. Today, of course, it's just you and I. And the reason why is because, well, we had some recorded, and what happened, Jackson? They weren't right, were they?
I don't know how it happened. Even like my friends that know more about audio, they have no idea. So we recorded them, and then they exported automatically because they always do with the program I use. But the video itself, so you listen to the video, and you can only hear my mic throughout the whole thing. But if you change the file type, so if you change it from an MP4 to an MP3 or even put that MP4 into an editing program, and you can only hear Bill and Matt's mic in those episodes. I don't know why. It sucks, because there was 2 episodes that we recorded, and they weren't too bad. There was some good conversations in them, but they're just useless now.
Well, that's all right. We'll make up for it again. And, of course, Matt's not here today. A big shout out to Matt, who is battling a really weird illness right now. He's got the
chlamydia.
That's what Doug joked about last night. But no, it's he's got a temperature and runny nose, sore throat kind of stuff. And I hope he feels better by the time he hears this. If not, get to the hospital, man.
I was going to say, if you're sick for more than a week, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the big news in the past little while is the new, and we talked about it last night, but we might as well talk about here. It's the new Taylor Swift album dropped.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not the only thing that's big, but yeah, we'll get to that first.
That is one of the big ones. It dropped out of nowhere, and
surprise album, especially the year after Midnights.
Yes, so. And I listened to it, and as I said, I personally liked it. I like about 90% of it. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. There are a few songs that, and Melissa can vouch, me and my girlfriend listened to it the one night, and some of the songs are kind of slow and like, well, but then the other ones are like, oh. And she's very vulgar. She cusses in it. She says the F word. It's pretty much a direct diss to her haters, I feel, when I listen to it. It feels like she's singing about stuff that are like kind of rumors and talked about her. So she's like, well, if you're going to talk about it, let me just fucking sing about it. And I don't know. I don't hate it. I think it's better than some of her other albums. No way is it anywhere near 1989. That, to me, that is her greatest album.
100%. Yeah, that is the pinnacle of Taylor Swift's career. And that's not even my favorite record. That's just her best one.
It is. And I swear, I think 6 songs off it are radio songs off 89.
6 or 7. Yeah. It's like half the record is radio hits.
It's ridiculously good. But this album, I think, has potential to grow. And like you said you read online, a lot of people were kind of giving it the thumbs down. A lot of,
I don't know. From what I've seen, a lot of Swifties, or at least Taylor Swift fans, like it. But then people who are kind of like neutral on her or dislike her said it's not good. So it's like, I wonder if it's just the Swifties liking it. But if you like it, it might just be a more diverse album that's not for everybody.
Makes sense.
Which I could see, because just the idea of her being more edgy doesn't really make sense in my mind. She's not exactly an edgy person. Her music's very, her music tends to have a more sad or has a more depressive sound to it lyrically, but it's still a lot more upbeat. So it just seems a bit odd that she's going into more like.
When I heard this album, it did remind me, like, I felt like if you take Taylor out and put Olivia Rodrigo in and sang it, it would be an Olivia album, because Olivia albums I like Olivia. She's okay. I like her fast songs.
Yeah, they're a lot more raw.
Yeah. But when she has these slow songs and it's always about love and pain and such, it's like, I feel like this album Taylor kind of took from Olivia. Like, oh, well, and like, as you said, Taylor writes Olivia songs for the most part.
Not all of them, but a good amount of them.
And that's cool and all, but I feel like she's trying to maybe get... I don't know if Olivia has... I don't know if she has a name for her fans yet. They're not... Taylor's got the Swifties. Maybe Olivia's got the Roddies. I don't know.
I don't.
Not
sure.
Maybe she's trying to bring a younger fan base in. I'm sure Taylor's got some young fans too, but Olivia's only, 19 now?
Yeah, she's
20?
really young, yeah. And she's a lot more... Taylor's music is still somewhat early 2000s lyrically. Like, it's a lot... She doesn't use a lot of younger slang or younger
No.
topics of discussion. It's a lot more like mature in a sense. Like it's not like old people, but it's definitely more mature.
Yeah.
Whereas Olivia Rodrigo is very much today and this generation, Gen Z, even Gen Alpha. Like she is very much in with
what's hip.
what's hip. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's cool and all, but I think the biggest surprise for us was at, no surprise, Jackson and I work at Walmart, and it's a Canadian Walmart. We don't usually get vinyl records.
No, not especially not in a small town
No,
like we live
would
in.
never. And when we have a buddy there who came up to us and said, "Do you guys want to buy a $60 record?" And we're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And we went over and looked. It's like, holy shit!
Yeah, I'm surprised we have vinyls. I'm not surprised it's Taylor Swift.
No. So
not at all.
I ended up buying it I didn't wait for double discount day. I was like, fuck it. I bought it. It was 50. I think it's like what,
59.
50?
I think.
Yeah. So with our discount, it only came out to $60 and some odd cents. I pretty much paid for the record. I didn't have to pay the tax, so that works. Nice. But the record itself is nice for fans who may have not gotten it yet and want to. You open it up, and there's a book attached to it with all the lyrics. It's like a book. It's kind of neat. And it's a double disc vinyl, a white vinyl.
Yeah, her production with her vinyls is always stellar.
Yeah.
Like that's even the one thing. Even her CDs. Yeah. She is very good with making her merchandise quality. I'm not sure if it's always good merchandise because she has like just a $300 sweater on her website, but and it's just a sweater, but she makes good quality items. So I'll give her that. Like Can
you imagine buying a $300 sweater?
I don't know if it was exactly $300.
No, but
it
I'm
was
saying,
expensive.
Like,
yeah.
and just
one of my old friends bought a bunch of stuff off her, and I think that was one of them. Was just a really expensive like cardigan or sweater or whatever it was.
Oh my god.
I don't understand.
I mean, Melissa and I are just as bad when it comes to those two cartoon bears, Milk and Mocha. Their prices are ridiculous. Their sweaters are like $85-$90 on their.
That's reasonable.
It is.
That's
I guess.
Like that's what $20 more than a sweater. Like sweaters are only $60-$70, so it's
just we haven't pulled the trigger yet. I think we're going to one day, but it's just tough when you see like, man, that's so pricey, and then you think I don't want to wear it too much. What if it gets wrecked?
Yeah, at that point you're paying for the brand, and like I bought a bunch of like Sabaton record sweaters, which I'm wearing right now, and the first one I bought, I was trying to be more careful with it because I think it was like $70.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I'm just like, it's a sweater, wear it. Like you paid the money for it. I don't like it's a cool sweater and I like the designs on it, but if I'm not wearing it, I'm not getting used to it. Yeah.
So I had the same thing happen years ago. I bought a wrestling shirt off Amazon. I was like, I don't want to like wear it too much. I don't want to ruin it. But the funny thing is, even in time, it does get ruined because it's not, even if you don't wear it a lot, it's still going to get wear and tear. It's just because you 100%. Might as well just enjoy it and wear it because you paid the money for it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I feel. Even like just in merchandise in general, I've never been the hugest fan of buying something that you're not going to use.
Yeah.
Like music or vinyls is like the most obvious thing to buy for merchandise because you're going to listen to it. Assuming you have a record player or CD player, you're going to listen to it. You're going to, even if it's just used for wall art most of the time, you're still going to look at it and use it, whatever. There's a lot of people out there will buy posters and whatnot, and I do have some posters, but they're good, high quality, like metal posters that I won't have to do anything with. They're not going to get damaged, and I look at them constantly. But I don't get the point of buying merch that you're not going to use.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I guess if you're a collector of that person or something, maybe. Like I know my buddy Zeke Zanzibar, he loves Avril, and he went to her concerts, and he actually had I think this was back in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
She had a package deal, like a VIP deal, and in the VIP deal, you got like a T-shirt just in that VIP, so it wasn't anywhere else you can get it. So exclusive. He never wore it. He kept it because it's like, this is kind of a big deal. It's like, it's not one you could buy off her website or buy at the concert. It was the VIP shirt. So I can understand doing that.
Yeah, something that's very exclusive.
Yeah, but if it's just like if you're at the show, it doesn't matter what show. I'm talking sports or music or whatever, and it's just they're selling the shirt or whatever. Everyone's going to have it. Everyone's buying it. So who cares? Yeah. There's going to be 1,000 people by the end of that tour wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is what it is.
No point in trying to keep it good quality when you can just wear it and show off your support for
yeah,
that.
and maybe
Whatever.
someone might become a fan too, right?
Yeah,
Who knows? Another big thing for me, and with music, I just recently, and this is kind of like dating myself and being a fan. Is fanboy a term instead of fangirl? I
Yeah.
don't.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I officially got all the Britney Spears albums on vinyl, and I was always a Britney fan ever since I think I was 17 years old. I opened up a magazine in class, and they were hyping up her self-titled album, or not self-titled, sorry, her self debut album. There
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Baby One More Time. She looked, really cute, and she was like my age, pretty
I was gonna say,
much.
she's what, like when that first one dropped, she was underage.
I think she was
like
16.
17 or 16.
I think she was
yeah.
16, and I was just turning 18, right? So I was just like a few weeks away from turning 18 at the time. So I was like, wow, this is like a girl I could see like in my school or something, right? It was just so cool. I listened to her music back then. Back then, it was mainly through either you download a tune or you download or you tape it on the radio, or you watch the music video on Much Music or YTV. So or you get your friends who have or CD burners to burn it from. Yeah. So I had a lot of her early stuff, and then Melissa knew a lot of her later stuff because Melissa was listening to it more then than I was. But I saw a good deal. They were only like $30 each, which is sad to say cheap for a vinyl record.
It
now.
is.
Yeah. So I snagged them, and we got them. And will we listen to them? Probably not, but we got them.
Have you listened to any of them?
We listened to the greatest hits the other night just because we didn't know what else to listen to. We're like, well, let's just put that on. Yeah. We were gonna listen to one last night, but I was in a mood from something at work, and I had to listen to louder music. Actually, I'm just gonna talk about this too right now because it's kind of something I want to get off my chest too. Last night, I won't say his name, but we have a coworker, and you may know who I'm talking about, Jackson. I just want to say his name out of respect. He was coughing a lot last night and hacking stuff, and he was saying how he was trying to quit smoking. And he came to me and told me that he's got COPD, and he's got like 65% COPD. And it kind of brought back memories to when my mom had it, and that's what she died from, right? COPD. And I'm thinking, why did he tell me, out of all people? Why is it me? And I was like, well, whatever. I'm like, that sucks, man. I hope, just try to quit smoking and such. And we were out on the floor, and he was just a few feet away from me, and he started coughing really badly and hacking. And it was very bad. I went over, and he was like bent over. His face was red. He was looking at me, trying to breathe. And I walked up to him, and I started, rubbing his back, saying, man, it's going to be okay. Just take slow breaths. Just take slow breaths. And I told him what my mom did, drinking warm water to kind of help break that up. And he was thanking me for it and all that. And I felt so bad. And like a flood of PTSD of what I went through 2 years ago with my mom came back. And I was like, I got to get rid of this feeling. So for me, heavy metal music isn't like you, Jackson. I know you listen to a lot of heavy stuff. For me, it was Breaking Benjamin, right? That's heavy to me. I fucking threw that on, and I just started just slashing the boxes with the knife, trying to get through that feeling. I texted the girlfriend at 10 o'clock telling her what happened and what I was feeling. That was right before I saw you, and you came in for break. And it got me through it. But that last night, I just was not in a listen to happy dance pop music. I was like, we need to just get through it. I want to get through it. I listened to like loud stuff even when I got here through YouTube music. And it's just really fucked up. And then I started thinking like how much we kind of like use music to like get us through things. And,
it's definitely a huge coping mechanism for a lot of people. Because
last night it wasn't like a Kesha night at work. It wasn't a Good Charlotte night. It wasn't even a 1,000-Foot Crush night. It was like, I need music that's just like in your face to me. And Breaking Benjamin is to me a metal. I mean, I think they are a metal band.
Especially their early stuff.
And that to me is metal because that's just what I like. I'm more of, like I said, just a kind of like a vibe metal where I can like, oh, it's heavy, but I understand the words. I'm getting, for you, I'm sure it's like something that's even like way higher, like your Megadeth, your Sabaton, your Bullet for My Valentine, and that's cool. I just haven't reached that level of metalness yet to be like Metallica's close to that, but Metallica at the times too, like
they're very light for especially nowadays.
For sure, yeah. But I just feel bad for this guy, and I hope things work out well for him. But with COPD, it never usually gets better. No, that's unfortunate. So anytime I hear him having an issue there, I'm going to hopefully be there for him, as shitty as that is, because it's like reliving things. But what can you do, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. So that was my night last night.
That's not a fun night.
No, it wasn't. So that was my music for the last few days. Taylor Swift, Britney Spears, and Breaking Benjamin. That was my fun. And of course, last night we did do an order through Pop Music. We ended up getting some record store vinyls that apparently weren't that hard to get after all. There's so many still available. Melissa and I ordered the Cranberries, the Offspring, the even more Dazed and Confused, the second soundtrack of that movie. Garbage, their LP they put out, or EP or whatever it was, of 4 songs, and Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits.
I don't know if I'd seen that one.
Yeah.
Because I was looking on it when the day after it was done, and I was like, well, there's not much that I really like listening to, so...
Yeah, we got GNR's Greatest Hits is something we've wanted to get for a while, just because we don't want the normal albums.
Yeah, I would probably get Appetite for Destruction, but that's... Even then, I only really like 5 songs on it.
The first one?
The first one.
Oh, yeah. The second one has November Rain, though,
Use Your Illusion, yeah, the 2-parter that has...
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. What is Appetite for Destruction?
As Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to the Jungle.
Oh, okay.
That's their debut.
Then there's like the Spaghetti. What was that? What's it called? The Spaghetti.
Hold on, let me.
Eddie Spaghetti. I don't know. I think that's
Eddie
a singer.
Spaghetti. Yeah, that album's weird. And then they had the Communist China one.
Oh yeah.
Let's see what that one was called. The Spaghetti Incident.
Yeah, the Spaghetti Incident.
And then Chinese Democracy.
That's it. Yeah. Those are.
And apparently they have a new song out.
Really?
As of December 8th last year.
That's weird. They're still good for them.
They've made a few songs in the past year or two. I don't know if they're any good, but they're there.
Yeah, it's like when I feel like Axl Rose and Zach De La Rocca, or whatever his name is, from Rage Against the Machine. I feel like they're on the same boat, where like they're crazy singers who are like their own worst enemy for their band.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Definitely.
And I'm sure there's a lot of other singers out there like that, but those two are
very, they're definitely some of the biggest bands out there, and they're just shoot themselves in the foot constantly.
They have like this fan base that is like relentlessly like supportive of them, and somehow can't bring out more albums.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Don't you want money?
Guns N' Roses has 5 albums?
Yeah, and Rage only has 4.
Yeah,
and one's a cover album.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is weird. But yeah, so what about you? What's been cracking for you in music lately?
Well, the past, I want to say, week and a half, the only thing I've really been listening to is the other big news that's been happening recently, and that's the beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, right. Yeah, so you can fill me in. You tried to fill me in a little bit last night. I'd heard of it, didn't really know what was going on. So what's happening
Okay,
here?
So I'll do my best to explain it, because I don't really know the full story, but essentially Kendrick and Drake have had beef for about a decade now. They've had beef for a while. Kendrick didn't like Drake and whatnot. And then last year, Drake had J. Cole on a record, or on a song titled First Person Shooter. And it was basically them. The song was about talking about how they were the best. Those two were the best. And at some point, J. Cole had a line of, is it K. Dot, Audrey, or me, feeling like the big 3 or whatnot? And K. Dot's Kendrick, Aubrey is Drake, and then obviously J. Cole. But so that came out, and then the beginning of this month, I think it was February or March, maybe March, Kendrick went on a track with Future and Metro Boomin called Like That, where he dissed Drake and then had some side shots at J. Cole. And since then, there's been, I want to say, about 10 disses between Drake and Kendrick, back and forth, and it's pretty violent. Like the Like it was Kendrick released that first diss, and then J. Cole released a diss kind of just being like, hey, this warning shot, don't come at me, whatever. He then took it down and apologized because he's just not what he wants to do or whatnot. And it's probably smart that he did it in hindsight because of how aggressive Kendrick got. But Drake released a diss against not only Kendrick, but a bunch of other people who were on the Future album that dissed him. So like The Weeknd was on there, A$AP Rocky, Rick Ross. There's a lot of people that dissed Drake. So Drake released a song kind of firing back at all of them. And then he released another song with AI Tupac and AI Snoop Dogg making fun and poking fun at Kendrick. Because Kendrick calls himself like the next Tupac and he's like the messiah of the West Coast and whatnot. That's kind of like a complex he has. But yeah, he didn't like that. And then the Tupac estate threatened to sue him. So he took the video down because like AI Tupac definitely kind of fucked up. So then after that, Kendrick released a song called Euphoria. Don't know if there was anything important on it, but basically Kendrick was like, hey, I know you, and I know your every move. I know what you're going to do next. I know this and this, this. I can predict your patterns. And it was a 6-minute song, and he just destroyed him in that one. And then he released another song titled 616, which was, I don't really remember. It was just on like Instagram. He didn't even post it to YouTube or Spotify. I forget what he was talking about it on it, but
I'm going to take a guess here. The 6 is like, that's a term for Toronto, right? Like that's their area code. So. 16 is probably about the underage girls that Drake.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And also, I think 616 is Tupac's birthday, and there's a few other references to that. And then after that, Drake dropped another one called Family Matters. Was that what came next? Yeah, I think so. And it was basically him going off the rails and no longer being like the opening line, or one of the openings line was, I was really trying to keep it PG, because Drake was trying to keep it. So he says you're trying to keep it PG and trying to keep it light, but then after with Family Matters, he kind of went more into it and kind of took it to a personal level. And then Kendrick released 2 more songs titled Meet the Grams and Not Like Us. Meet the Grams it's an insane track. I don't know how someone even thought about this song, but it's basically him writing a letter to each one of his family members. So he starts off with Drake's son, and he talks about how bad of a father Drake is and how he never raised him and how Kendrick would be there for him and teach him life lessons.
Right.
And then he goes to his mom and says that you should be getting more of his money because whatever. And then he goes to his dad and he's like, hey, you're a piece of shit. You raised a horrible son and whatnot.
Oh.
And then he goes to his... Because throughout this diss, I think it was in Euphoria the first time, but Kendrick has been saying that Drake has a daughter that he's hiding from everyone, that he doesn't know, and he doesn't like, he's not in her life and whatnot.
Yeah.
So in this song, he had a whole like section where he was addressing his daughter, and he was like, hey, your father's not there, he missed your 11th birthday, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, he does a verse where he just directly addresses Drake. Okay. And he's talking to him. He's like, I'm trying to help you. Like, I know you're like have problems and blah, blah, blah. And the therapy is just a start. You need to go more than that and whatever. So that was just like it wasn't even a dit. Like, he had to set at the end, this is not a dit. Fuck the rap battle. This is a long life battle with yourself. It's like, it's not even a diss. It's just a dissection of Drake's character.
Okay.
To his parents and family members.
Oh.
And then the next song he released was Not Like Us, which he basically made a club banger.
Yeah, and that's what I just want to bring up right now. Not Like Us has been it's involved right now in wrestling.
Oh,
because
really?
He says a lyric in this, put the whole label on me, I'm going to get dropped, Sweet Chin Music, and I won't pass the or whatever.
Ox, yeah.
Ox or whatever. Sweet Chin Music, of course, is Shawn Michaels' finishing mover. Shawn Michaels now has asked Drake and Kendrick, what's his name, Kendrick Lamar or whatever? Lamar, to come to the WWE and deal with this in the ring. Yeah,
wow,
for real.
That's funny.
Yeah, because I read about this last night. Like, why is Shawn Michaels getting involved in this? And apparently he used the line about Sweet Chin Music.
That bar is kind of interesting, because the first part is like, I go against your whole label or bring the whole label against me. Yeah. That was something that Tupac said in one of his songs, so he's kind of bringing that back. And then the
Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah, the Sweet Chin Music bar. And then when he's like, I'm not going to let you pass, I'm not going to past the aux is because he's been dropping consecutive songs. Like he dropped 3 disses in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like it was just back to back to back.
That's crazy.
And then, so that song is just like, it's a club banger. Like it's bouncy, it's catchy, it's really fun, but at the same time, it is criminal how many allegations he throws at Drake.
Yeah.
Like he calls him a pedophile, he calls him a colonizer, he calls him a lot of stuff, and it's hilarious. And then Drake just today dropped another diss called The Heart Part 6, which the Heart series is something that Kendrick Lamar has. He's got up to 5 parts.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trolling him with that. And then Drake, the entire song was Drake kind of defending himself while saying that he set up Kendrick, because he's like, Kendrick was trying to get his information from, like, saying he got all of his information, all these allegations from Drake's inner circle.
Yeah.
But Drake was like, no, we fed you that information. And Drake, one of the things Drake said is he was like, I expected you to compare me to Epstein. I'm like, what? Because he was being called a child molester and rapist and all that. He's like, I expected that. I'm like, that's not what you should be saying when you're defending yourself, but sure. So it was an interesting diss, interesting, like, kind of angle to take
like,
things, but...
Aren't you, like, just admitting then that, I go for younger women?
I don't. It was weird. It was such a weird... And one of the things was, like, I forget the exact lyric, but he was talking about that, the whole situation, like, trying to accuse him of being a pedophile, and he's like, I'm too big to be a pedophile. It's like, you would have, like, trying to say, like, oh, you would have known I'm so big, something would have come out, but it's like, hello, Epstein, R. Kelly, fucking
P. Diddy
Weinstein,
now, I guess?
P. Diddy, like, they're all famous, and it took years to figure them out, so it's not exactly good
that's
the angle to go at.
I mean, I guess I know what Drake will do. He'll just use the thing like, well, in Canada, 16 is the legal age. He's going to pull that one.
I don't think he will, because I think people are smarter than that.
You think so? Because I know he, I'm sure, like, I would willing to bet that he has been with girls who are probably at that level of either 18 or under. Because he's, I mean, look, first of all, he was before he was a rapper, he was a television star, Aubrey Graham.
Yeah.
He was Jimmy on Degrassi, The Next Generation, right? So a lot of younger girls would have watched him on there, and it would have, so it's, man, that guy's, I don't know, like, Drake hasn't really made any music lately that I know of besides these diss tracks. I mean, I don't really ever hear of, like, you got to get the new Drake album.
Yeah, they're not, he's not as in the limelight as he once was.
The Weeknd came along and said, Bruno Mars and Drake, just step back, I'll just take over, and fans went with The Weeknd, right? And though, like, I find
it's not like Drake has stopped making music. Like
it's just he's not in the spotlight.
He's just not.
Yeah. But The Weeknd, though, I'll say this: I find a lot of The Weeknd's music sounds alike.
It's definitely that. Like he does good R&B music and good pop R&B, but it's very much, if you listen to all of his albums, I haven't listened to the one FM album, but the first 3, like The Hills and Starboy and whatnot, they definitely have a consistent sound to them.
Yeah, not that it's a bad thing.
There are songs that stand out, but it's a general, like, most of the songs on the albums definitely sound similar.
So that brings up an interesting point. Should an artist change their style? Like, if they're good at what they're doing, maybe they should stay doing it. Yeah,
I don't know. Because it kind of depends. If it's interesting enough where even if you stay in the same sound or same style, they're different. Like, so for example, Iron Maiden has had the same sound throughout their career, but because they're such, like, they kind of have a progressive sound to them, like a prog sound to them, they can release an album where, sure, some of the songs might be misses and not be very good,
right?
But they can have a few songs on it that are just, they sound like Iron Maiden. They're obvious Iron Maiden, but they have such a unique style to, like, not style, but they definitely are, like, such a well-crafted song that even if they sound like everything else, they're still good.
Yeah, that's true. I ironically that you're just talking about that. Because you mentioned how Iron Maiden made it through the grunge era, and a lot of these bands did when it was tough. Recently, the documentary movie came out, the Bon Jovi one, something like, so is it like Say Hello, Thank You, Goodbye, or something like that it's called? I forget, but it's on Disney Plus. I watched the first episode, and John. First of all, John goes through a lot of shit now with his vocals. He has to have lasers on him. He has to do like exercises. He wakes up in the morning and does like trying to make
he
sure.
really destroyed his voice.
Over the years. But he was doing a thing where he went through his albums, kind of like talking about them. And he got to 1992 with the Keep the Faith era, and he said this was the grunge era of music, and they knew they had to get through it. So they made that album different, just different enough to get them through that slow, because they knew grunge wasn't going to last forever. I think everyone knew that. And then once the late 90s came, they released, they kind of went to that more like a loves, because they knew Bed of Roses was a big hit on Keep the Faith, so a lot of their songs were like that. So they almost became like
ballads and
ballads. There it is. And then 2000 hit with their big their reimbursed to the music scene with Crush and that their with It's My Life song.
Oh yeah.
So Richie Sambora said in that, he goes, what's up with that lyric? Frankie says I did it my way. And John's like, well, it's from what's his name? I can't think of his name. Who sang My Way? I can't think of the.
No idea.
Oh fuck! It's gonna bug me now.
Frank Sinatra.
There it is. Yeah, okay. It was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't remember. Frank Sinatra. I should have known that because Josh loves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's Frank Sinatra. Like Frankie said, I did it my way, and Richie's like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Well, like Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. We did it our way." And Richie goes, "Fans aren't going to get that." And he goes,
"Don't matter if they do."
John goes, "It doesn't matter. I get that."
Yeah.
John's like, "I know what it means," but when I heard that, I knew exactly what John meant. It's like Frankie said, I did it my way. It's like such a good way to live too. Like everyone should live that way. Do it your way, right? And then he talked about how in 2005 he wrote an album that had like a song on it that ended up getting picked up on a country station, and all of a sudden Bon Jovi became country. So the next album they wrote was an entire country album.
Yeah,
and then they went back to rock.
They definitely seem to follow. Like, it's not so much they follow trends, but they follow what their fans have listened to.
Exactly. And with saying that, it's just crazy to think they went from and I'll say it right now, that the first album they released could have gone two ways. They could have went, and it's weird to say, they could have went thrash metal if they chose to change their guitars.
They definitely could have gone
They could have went that way.
Yeah.
They chose to go glam. They went almost a glam rock. And then they went to like I said, like they tried to do a grunt, like get through the grunge with that Keep the Faith album, then the ballads, then back to what made them rock and roll, then to country. More, and it's kind of funny, I just said, should a band change their ways? Bon Jovi had to change their ways to keep the longevity to still to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Fans talk. 40 years they've been around. Yeah. That's a long time. Someone like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, I'm just using them as examples because they're bands either you love, I love, we both love, whatever. They have a constant with their fans. Their fans just like them. I feel like even if they write a shitty album, their fans are still going to come back. I think Saint Anger
at this
proved
point
that.
Probably, yeah. Like it might not be immediate. Like even like it might take an album or two to come back, but they will.
And so there's two types of longevity, and I think you have to have that. Either you can play what you want, fans are going to love it. You switch up your style, fans are going to love it.
And this isn't saying that these bands don't switch up their style.
No.
Like obviously Metallica did with Load and Reload and Saint Anger and whatnot, and Metallica or Iron Maiden did in the 90s. They did the same thing. They took their classic style and made it a little bit more gritty and raw for the grunge era. And then Megadeth did the complete opposite. They went from thrash to like more poppy metal, and they went like almost straight like pop metal. Like we
have to go radio for
they went very experimental and whatnot. So
well, that's how you stay relevant. That's how you stay alive. But maybe it's different with the rap or pop scene compared to the rock and metal scene.
It definitely is because, well, especially right now, rap and hip hop is the mainstream.
Right.
Like pop music, I think is just as big, but rap is It's so big.
It is.
It is one of the biggest genres in the world.
It went from being, I mean, it was, let's be honest, rap was always big in,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I'll just say this straight out, it was big in black culture, black fans, black people. It wasn't until a few artists,
it was like Vanilla Ice,
House of Pain with Everlast, Beastie Boys,
Eminem,
and they kind of came out, and you're like, oh, okay, you know,
the white guys can vibe to this without feeling uncomfortable.
Exactly. I think Eminem said in a line, for every for every black fan that he got
for every black fan, for every white or black fan that he got, Dre, or it was like every white fan Dre got,
which is true.
So they basically merged or switched their fans.
Yep. And I know I'm saying black white, but let's not forget about the Mexican culture, because Cypress Hill, you know, so Mexican rap, Latino rap, like all of a sudden,
even now there's Japanese rap, there's Chinese rap, there's like Indian rap. Like rap is such a cultural phenomenon.
It is,
because it's like, oh, a lot of like black artists want to say, oh, it's a black cultural genre, and technically it is, but it what's the word I'm looking for? It breaks that mold. It doesn't. It doesn't just stay in that culture. It kind of it's more than that.
And if that's true, then they could say, well, metal is like technically metal should be a European culture. It's a lot of the European.
Yeah, metal itself is European, but it's based off of rock, which rock is a black,
right?
Because of like blues and whatnot.
That's the thing. Like people say, like, well, if metal is just for white people, then Seven Dust, the lead singer, he's one of the greatest vocalists ever for a metal band, and it's like he's black.
Yeah,
it's okay that
Killswitch Engage, the one of vocals they had was black,
and it's just funny that there's some people that they're still want to categorize. Well, rap should be this, metal should be this, punk rock. You're supposed to have mohawks and tattoos and piercings. Those days are gone now.
Oh yeah,
you know, that's a lot of bands are punk rock, and they look like you and I. They look like so
they look like normal dudes.
Yep.
That's even with metal nowadays. It's just people look like normal dudes. They don't have to have tattoos. They don't have to wear jeans and
leather jackets and all that.
They just look like office workers. They look like just dudes with wearing whatever.
Yeah, it's nice now to know that. When it comes though to artists who have changed their style and it hurt them, one person comes to mind because I was a fan of her music, and that was Kesha.
Kesha,
yeah, and I get it why she said she wanted to change because of Dr. Luke and all that. And when the Kesha fans, I don't know if there's a name for Kesha fans, the hardcores, but they loved that one album that she did as Kesha Siebert when she changed and got rid of the dollar sign. They love her new album. Me and Melissa listened to the newer album. Some songs on there do sound like old Kesha, but it's too far now. It's like I can't. It's like, to me, Warrior was her last album.
I get it. Yeah. You hear enough of her. I mean, for me, I've heard enough of that style of the Cannibal and Animal and Warrior.
Yep.
That I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like even if she goes back to it, I'm good.
Yeah,
those albums are so good that I don't need anything else.
So this brings up an interesting point now too when it comes to this. Why do you think there comes a certain time? I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but I have. And I think people maybe older have. Like maybe your dad probably has too. Why do you think we come to a certain point where we stop listening to a band that we liked and just forget about them? Because like I did it with Pennywise. I listened to a certain
I know
album.
We talked about this a bit with Roger.
Yeah. So like, what do you think overall? Because like I know it's being talked about a lot now, like online. People are saying we stopped listening to this band. And I know Roger said too, it's because new bands come in, but I don't believe that anymore. There had to have been something else. There has to.
I'm not sure.
Is it nostalgic feelings?
I think
is that what it comes down to?
I think it. Well, I don't know, because if you stop listening to a band, I don't think it's nostalgia. I think it's a change in taste.
Fair enough.
So I think when you stop listening to something, it's like, hey, even if you still like what they've done in the past, you're like, hey, I want something new. Like you don't want to listen to either that, or you want to be just surrounded in the stuff you know.
Right.
It's two different camps. You either want to keep exploring and leave what you've known behind, or you want to just stick to what you know.
No, yeah.
And I get both, because there's sometimes where I'm like, hey, I want to listen to some new music. And there's sometimes I'm like, hey, I just want to be able to sing along and jam to stuff I know off by heart. Like it's just.
Oh, I'm like that too. I can put on House of Pain that I listened to in 1993 and still know every word to every song. But nowadays I put on like newer songs I've heard I forget the lyrics. I don't know them. It's like, oh, I should know this, but I don't. But I can remember something from like 20, 30 years ago now. It's like, holy shit. It's just remarkable.
Yeah. So, and I think the reason that nowadays people are starting to go back to their old music taste is because of that nostalgia. It's like, hey, you stop listening when you're 20 or 30 or whatever age you were.
Yeah.
And then you either just stop listening to music in general or you listen to different stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you get some kick off the internet because right now music has become such a trendy thing where you can have like a clip on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube and that kind of becomes a trend. So it's like now you're kind of having an era where people are listening to that old stuff based off of just a trend. Like it's, hey, somebody had a song of like a trend of, right now there's a Johnny Cash trend going around where it's one of his like deep cuts. And so I think there's a lot of people out there, and with the Fallout TV show, there's a lot of people out there going listen to old 50s like country and folk and whatnot.
Yeah. I think it helps too with TikTok that they take a small sample from something, and that's from like, let's say 1994.
Yeah.
And you hear it and I'm just like, holy shit, I forgot about that song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got to go back and listen to that. And then you start listening to the other songs by that band. They listen to the whole album. You're like, I forgot about this album, how good it was. Yeah. It's remarkable, right? How that happens. Wow. That makes sense though. That makes sense. I mean, these trends help make people remember things or even get familiarized with them.
Yeah, because up until recently, we haven't had an easy way to keep all of our music like in one place. Like before, it's like you either have CDs or you illegally downloaded it on like Napster or whatever else.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
and that's not the easiest to do because if you don't like, you can't just search it up online that easy.
No,
you kind of have to like know what you're looking for, or at least know the band or artist. Whereas now you can have Shazam and you can just like play a song and it tell you what it is, or you can have TikTok where you can search up anything and it'll show up.
It's such a weird era of life now, because back in my day that wasn't like that.
Yeah, the convenience is the priority nowadays.
Oh, I remember I was the Napster era. I remember getting Napster for the first time and going on there, and it was very rare you get a full album on Napster too. It was mostly like just you singles, got the songs you wanted, and if you could get an album, that was great. But it was just usually you just ended up borrowing your buddy's CD that had that album, put it on your computer as MP3s, then burn it to your CD that you want, because everyone had a CD burner. The CD burners weren't cheap then either.
No.
And you know what's funny though, as time goes on, people found out those burnt CDs don't play anymore. They just stop working.
Yeah, they eventually just
and I've heard I heard that real CDs eventually stop working too. That's why they keep making like newer versions of the same album.
Yeah, reprints and whatnot, repressings.
Oh, here's one for you. I'd like to ask you before we end this podcast today. You talked about how you can't find some of your favorite Megadeth albums on vinyl because it was like one pressing and you can't get them anymore.
Yeah.
Have you thought about going on eBay and getting the cassette tapes, like the complete cassette? I'm sure that would be cheaper. You'd have all the cassette tapes.
Probably, but I think they're just as hard to find because I think at some point they gave up doing cassettes. So I don't think I'd be able to find like 2000 era stuff, but I don't have a cassette player.
I know. But just having them on display.
Well, sure, having them is cool, but I want the vinyls because I have a record player and I will listen to them.
What about the CDs of them? Could you get the CDs?
I could probably find CDs, but that's in my car and I normally use my phone anyways. And it's like, the reason I like vinyl so much is I get to listen to them, which is like the main thing, but it's also just the big piece of artwork I can put on my wall if I want to with my stands, or you can just have like, it's just cool.
I get that.
And I also don't need like 17 things to collect. I'm good with just, I already have that many, so I don't need more.
Yeah, I know how that is. Looking around this place, you can see that very much so. I have a little bit of a addiction.
As Roger told me the other day at work, he was like, yeah, walking into Bill's place, it just looks like a toy store or
it is
whatnot.
For people who don't know, I'll give a quick visual of what's in here. There's Masters of the Universe toys, which are not the originals. They'd be too expensive. These were the remakes from 2020, plus the Funko Pops of them. You got, actually, I do have original Motu toys on the wall and pack. Those are the Super 7s. So they're but they're cartoon. They're from the cartoon era.
Yeah.
But they're made like the original line. Of course, all the vinyl records, the Funko Pops, the Simpsons Funko Pops, the Treehouse of Horror ones that my girlfriend collects. I mean, it is. It's just...
Yeah,
and
the amount of movies and CDs
the movies,
there.
and then in my room with the wrestling stuff, the magazines,
yeah,
the
if you
action
check a Jammer, you can see a lot of that.
Yeah, it's true. It's beautiful. Jammer's Wrestling Magazine Collection YouTube channel.
Selfless plug. We ain't ashamed of it.
There it is. No, but it is cool. And of course, now we actually finally got vinyl records on the wall. Thanks
you got
to
the wall shelves.
Ryan Moore, who's probably listening and critiquing this episode right now as we speak.
Do you think he still listens?
I don't know. I need to ask him that.
Yeah,
if he
I know my parents listen. My dad's pretty caught up. My mom's a few weeks behind, but yeah.
I love that your parents listen to it. I think that's so cool. It is. It shows that they support their son, and I think more parents need to be like that. I know my mom was always supportive of me. She always even though I sucked at life and did horribly at everything I did, we were going through. My mom has she wrote a journal of daily things.
Yeah. And
I was reading them to Melissa the other night, and it was just like a flashback of things I even forgot. And she talked about how she went to so this is true too. We did for backyard wrestling in 1998. We were really gifted in Florence. We had our parents were all in the Florence Optimist, so we got to use the Optimist Hall and the community center for things.
Yeah.
And we had a TV deal. At the time, it was Shaw Cable.
Wow.
They came and recorded us a show. And I got to do commentary and I got to do a match. And my mom wrote that she went and saw us and she said, in quotations, "The drugstore cowboy, the best." And I laughed at it. I was far from the best. My buddy Jeremy is a pro wrestler now, Eric Young. He's the best, right? He was always the best. But it was so sweet that my mom thought I was the best. And so she always had so much faith and support in me, even though I always sucked at everything I did. And I'm just being honest. I was not good at sport. I love sports. I wasn't good at sports, right? So, but it was just really cool. And I think it's cool that your mom and dad listen to these. And
I was going to say, do you still have that TV thing? Or
I do.
It gone?
I do.
You do?
I do. I put it on DVD. I burnt it to...
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You can see it sometime if you want. I'll put it on.
Definitely. That sounds
Did I ever show you any of the stupid wrestling that I ever did?
I don't know.
I don't think I did I?
Maybe once.
I know I showed Matt once. Matt came over and brought his karate video, so I showed I showed him the wrestling, the old FWF wrestling. That was in Florence and Thamesville. So anyone who listens to this knows those two places. Shout out to Florence and Thamesville.
The smallest fucking places in Canada.
Yeah. So shout out to them. I doubt anyone's listening but Ryan Moore. Shout out to Moore. That's all I got for that one. So I guess today I might as well just end it with when do you think we'll ever get around to doing the yellow one? That's probably when.
That's a good question. I don't know. Next time we get Matt in here, he's not dying,
or Race. I mean, I'd like to have Race. If you're, I don't even listen to these anymore. Race, if you're listening, just get the hell over here sometime. It's just not that hard.
Stop sleeping until 3 a.m.
Exactly. He lives no word of a lie. Race lives down the street 2 houses down from me.
Yeah,
he's a there's no rhyme.
You can see his house just from the door, basically.
Yeah, you can. It's there's Race. Hey, Race, come over. No, okay.
No, he's sleeping until 4 o'clock.
He is. Good for him. It's 4 o'clock right now.
Yeah, he's probably waking up.
Yeah, so shout out to Race who's waking up. So, anything you need to get over before we end this one, Jackson?
I don't think so.
I think it's been a pretty solid one. The first one, actually, we've done just me and you since the first 2, I think.
It's been a while,
Yeah, it's kind of neat. This is a throwback.
Well, I guess the interview, but besides that.
Oh, the interview. Yeah, that was so cool. I got to do one for Matt yet, too.
Yeah, we'll have to get one for Matt, and then me and Matt will have to figure out one for you.
Me, yeah. And then we'll do one for Ryan Moore.
Perfect. Just have him on only for the interview. It's he's a celebrity.
Yeah. And a Race from Racing the Roundabouts.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's funny? That night that you didn't come by we did New Apartment radio station or whatever.
Yeah.
Race, we were doing the interview. I tried to do an interview with Race. He kept just sleeping and stuff during. He's it's oh, wow, Race is sleeping again. Racing the Roundabouts. We'll never have a proper interview. Maybe on the podcast.
He's such a rebel.
He is. He's a rebel. All right. For this one then, we bid you farewell, people who are listening to this. We will come back bigger and stronger with our next one as always, because the last 2 we did are now obsolete.
They're gone.
They're gone.
I hate to say it. I probably could have figured something out to make them, but I did not care. They're deleted.
That's
They're
okay.
gone.
That's all right. Well, this one, actually, I like this one a lot. This one was a fun one.
This one was fun.
Yeah, it was. So until we do our next one, fans who are listening, this is New Apartment Radio Podcast. And for Bill, that's me. For my sidekick, the producer, Jackson, that's him.
That's me.
That's you. We only have one thing left to say.
Peace.